Hello. Hi. Welcome, dear ones, to day 3 of Resilient. Welcome, welcome. Day 3, boundaries. Probably my favorite word in the English language. I love me some boundaries. Who's with me? Let me know you're here. Say hello in the chat. So good to be with you again. Ooh, we got some punctual, resilient people. Hi, Caitlin. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Boundaries, the best day ever. I call this talk tonight, cutting the fluff. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. Hi, Lacey. Good to see you again. Good to see your words in the chat and feel your energy. Feel this sisterhood growing, this community that we are weaving together when you show up for yourself and for all of us. Hi, Micah. Hi, Brenna. Welcome. I realized that I forgot to light the candle yesterday. This is a nice candle, Wild Fig and Cassis. I don't even know what cassis is, to be honest. I assume it's a flower. When I light it, it does not permeate that strongly, but I'm gonna light it because I think it's important to draw a boundary around our time together, around any intention, any space. We're casting a circle, we're casting an energetic circle, and we're really holding this hour together. And we're calling it sacred. You know, when we call something sacred, it becomes sacred. That's all it takes. And you have that power. So I invite you to light a candle with me if you wish. Oh. As long as this candle burns today. May we be united in sisterhood. May we hold space and draw boundaries for ourselves. Because we are worthy. Yes, 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 yes. So good to be here. Oh my goodness, cutting the fluff. Cutting the fluff, whether it's unnecessary suffering, probably created by your thoughts, mindsets, stories, beliefs, patterns, overculture. Cutting the fluff, whether it's toxic people in your life, you know, passive aggression, dark energy, spiritual warfare. Whether it's a job that asks more of you than is reasonable, or that allows you to push yourself beyond your own human limits. Whether it's technology or something that you find yourself locked in an addictive struggle with. We're gonna cut the fluff. We're gonna come up with some really practical strategies tonight, and we're gonna talk about all the different parts that are connected. Who's excited? I feel like I've been talking about boundaries all day, like just knowing it was day 3 of this challenge. It's been coming up in my client calls today. I don't know if any of you are here that I've spoken with today, but it's really been a theme. And I can see and feel how it relates to everything we do, whether it's our space, our bodies, our minds, our relationships. Boundaries, we get to choose. How empowering. So I really want you to feel by the end of this training, this mindset shift that you are in control of what you are in control of. And you are worthy of setting boundaries because they help you live a better life. Yeah. The things out of our control, we cannot control. That's also part of the boundary, is that acceptance. And I want you to walk away with some tools for setting those boundaries practically, setting those limits. As we said yesterday, as though you were your own parent, as though you were going to reparent yourself. Yeah? And I like that because we do all have inner children within us. And if you've gone through becoming your own soulmate, you've met your inner child. So welcome, dear ones. You know, we have a very human tendency to cling to what we can control when things feel out of control. So, hello, 2020. Has anyone else felt their desire to control, their controlling strategies cropping up more and more this year? I would love to hear in the chat, and I'd love to hear what it is for you that you've been trying to control more and more. You know? For me, I think, you know, a big one was even trying to control my business and trying to plan and map out every single thing. And I had to really set those boundaries with my work and with my business. It's hard when you're an entrepreneur and you're your own boss. Is anyone else their own boss? Oh, it can be really, really challenging. And yeah, so we start to creep up on things that we think we can control, even when they're out of our control, when we're under stress. And, you know, I think cultivating lasting resilience has to include this healthy boundary setting, right? I think it's actually my favorite day for resilience. Talking about physical boundaries, talking about energetic boundaries for resilience. Because otherwise, what happens? We're going to burn the fuck out. We're going to burn out. Have any of you read Burnout? They talk about how we have to complete the stress cycle. You know, when something happens that gets us hijacked in our nervous systems, we have to do something to neutralize, to come back to baseline, or to come back to parasympathetic out of the fight-flight response. We have to do something to complete that cycle of stress. Whether it's go for a walk, you know, talk to a loved one, read a book, eat a nice meal they talk about in the book. We have to do something to complete the stress cycle. Cindy, you don't know about that book. Yes, I do know that. I love it. So what has happened in our culture of internalized capitalism, is that we do not allow ourselves the completion of that stress cycle. We stay plugged in, you know, tuned in, locked in, 24/7, because we're deriving our worthiness from the productivity. So there's no space for the completion of the stress cycle. This is why boundaries matter. Every time you set a boundary, dear one, especially in your work, especially in your productivity, you are doing something radical. Radical, you know? It's like putting a big middle finger up to internalized capitalism and to this overculture that we're talking about a lot this week, all the archies and isms that we have internalized. When we rest, we do this. When we leave community, we do this. And when we seek pleasure, we do this. So again, this theme of divine feminine self-care comes back. And we can see how boundaries benefit us in each of these areas. Yeah? And they are radical, radical acts. Let's drop into our bodies. I don't want to miss out on this. Hi, Claire. Welcome. Glad you made it. Let's find a comfortable seat. Closing the eyes if that's accessible. Breathing normally. Maybe here at the beginning, just noticing without manipulating how you're doing. Maybe this is the first line in the sand you've drawn all day to come into stillness. The first boundary you've set, maybe in a few hours, between this spiritual experience of living in this human form and everything outside of that form. Take some deep breaths in now at your own pace. Lengthening the exhales to relax your body even deeper. Feel the boundary of your body, the skin, the outline. All the places making contact with the pressure below. And all the places making contact with the air above. Noticing how presence is a boundary. The choice to be here now with this inquiry of what is my experience. It's a boundary between the here and now and everything else our minds love to concoct and play with. And see how this boundary around your presence and this boundary around your body are really one and the same. What casts and holds these boundaries is your simple decision. Your choice, your intention. Your valuing of this awareness. It is safe to be here in this boundary. You can expand your breath, your awareness to fill it. You get to choose what gets included. What is worthy. Because you're starting from a point of, I have everything I need. All the resources are right here. Your intuition, your beautiful soul, your higher self. It's all right here. You have everything you need so you can hold this boundary. Just notice how it feels to acknowledge this. What has shifted and expanded already? And when you're ready, take a deep breath in. And exhale. Blinking the eyes open, looking around the space, slowly coming back to our virtual circle. Thank you for taking that journey with me. Beautiful ones. I really feel better after that. I'd love to hear your experience if you would like to share in the chat what that was like, or anything that comes through during this time together. Today's homework covered creating your new rules. New rules. You get to decide who was able to complete them. You can self-identify. Congratulations if so, and if not, that's okay. It'll always be there for you to come back to. You know, whether it's habits, time sucks, toxic people, overworking, over scrolling, we all have a hunch, a suspicion of where we could suffer less if we had stronger boundaries. Yeah, I think we do. I think we know that they're so often the key to our struggles. Caitlin, a nice decompression after the work day. Good, dear one. You are worthy. Cindy was able to do the homework. Yes! So good. So some mindset shifts around boundaries. I think the biggest one is the fear of unworthiness, which I talk about a lot, but it's so central. It's like, if we don't believe that we're worthy, just like yesterday, if we don't believe we're worthy of planning, then it won't get done. Whatever it is, self-care, wellness, things that will make our lives better. It's the same with boundaries. Why would we ever set a boundary if we don't believe we're worthy of what's inside that boundary, which is our awareness, our space, spaciousness to hold for us and for others, you know, and all of the benefits that would come from setting those beautiful boundaries. It all comes back to worthiness. It all starts there. And that's why this time that we just practiced to drop into the body, to contact that higher self, that natural goodness that we all have, is so key. That's how you rewire your brain for worthiness. That's how we do it. That and sending those subconscious messages that we are worthy. So you can also reverse engineer it by planning for self-care and setting boundaries, even when you don't feel like it. Yeah. Jennifer, I find I have so much guilt and almost anxiety by setting boundaries. Ooh, I'd love to hear more. What do you think is underneath that, Jennifer? That's so interesting. Yeah. You know, for me, it's guilt, like with work. It's guilt that, you know, someone might need me. And something's going to fall through the cracks if I stop, if I rest, if I'm not hyper vigilant 24/7. And it's an absolute lie. Because we all know what ends up happening is we burn out. And then we're not any good to anyone. Yeah. So the fear of unworthiness, I would say, is a big mindset shift. And then there's the fear that we'll be separate. The fear of not belonging to maybe that work community or to our families, if it's around family shame and family boundaries that need to be set, or friends. You know, someone was, I think it was Caitlin was sharing in the group today, like, you know, sometimes with my friends, they rely on me to sort of be that space holder because it's a skill that I have. So you really have to set those boundaries, you know? And I totally resonate with that, Caitlin. Absolutely. But there can be a fear. Like, well, if I'm not filling that role, if that's my role, then who am I? I don't even know who I am or how I belong and fit into this group. And for those of you who are working with the ego and maybe who went through How Much Can You Love Yourself, which is a course that I have, you know that that's ego. Anytime those roles pop up, that's like, I'm not in my role. That's ego. Absolutely. And ego's not bad, but ego wants to live forever. Definitely doesn't want us contacting our higher self. Yeah. So that's the fear of separateness, the fear of not belonging, which belongs because we're pack animals. We can't change our physiology. We can have compassion for it though. And there's also a fear that we won't be productive. So the fear of unworthiness, the fear of separateness, the fear of non-productivity. I have a client right now I'm working with who the fear for her really is worthlessness, uselessness. She's told me, like, if I don't feel like I'm being useful at my job, I feel like I have job insecurity. And it's a really, really big fear she has. And of course, it belongs. It's trying to protect us. We do need to perform a function and, meet certain expectations to get our paycheck, our very livelihood. But I think that this gets translated into internalized capitalism when we become the overseers of our own constant conveyor belt of productivity. We become that big, scary boss archetype over ourselves. And that can show up as inner critic. That can just show up as constant self-blame, self-judgment. And it can be so, so painful. And many of you know that I've been in a few situations like that in my past life, working in international development. Like, to the point where I thought something was wrong with me. Because it got so internalized. So I've been there. And shockingly, like most people I talk to have those experiences of internalized capitalism to the point where it's like debilitating health-wise and burnout-wise. And that's one of the reasons I got into this work, because I saw it happening all around me. It's not okay. It's not okay. Jennifer said maybe not letting others down. Yeah, absolutely. I think that comes into belonging, right? It's that fear of being separate from others if we don't fulfill our function. Yes, let's heal that together. All of these fears, the fear of unworthiness, the fear of separateness, the fear of non-productivity, fear and shame are the two mechanisms by which this internalized domination functions, whether it's the internalized capitalism we were just talking about, internalized colonialism, which is really, really harmful, especially for those of us identifying as white. Hello, that shit gets so entrenched to the point where not only do we feel like we don't have a culture, so everybody appropriates everyone else's, but we actively have a mentality of overconsumption, taking, stealing, appropriating, dominating. And we can actually do that to ourselves as well. And then internalized patriarchy as well, which this is so cool that it's become such a sisterhood in this community, because I think women absolutely know what this feels like, this internalized patriarchy. And it often translates as body shame, shame around any wavering of that line of good girl, good moral woman, but really infantilized girl who doesn't get angry, doesn't get ugly, certainly doesn't get fat, doesn't speak her mind, doesn't step outside the boundaries. And I'm fucking done with it, you guys. Like, I gotta tell ya, I'm over that shit. And I say that and I try to live that, but it's still here in my nervous system. It still has to be a constant choice of unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. And it all adds up. The shame and the fear of these things adds up to a loss of agency and autonomy over our own lives. Because we say, well, I'm so afraid that I'm not worthy. I'm so afraid I'll never belong. And I'm so afraid that I won't be productive enough or doing enough. Because all my belonging has been within this overculture. Like, it might be evil, but I know where I fit in it, you know? So we stay in it. We stay in it. We give up our autonomy. We give up our agency. We say, here, take my power. Take it. Take the keys. Take the wheel. You can just do it, you know? Like, I give up. You have to do it for me. And this is where boundaries become so important and so hard to set, you know? And it actually makes me emotional because I see so many women throwing their hands in the air and say, can you just do this for me? It's too hard. And I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. And we can, like I said, reverse engineer. When we set that first boundary, we set another one, and we set another one, and we set another one. And slowly we rewire our brains for autonomy and agency and empowerment. Because we're saying in this weird language that we have with ourselves, oh, maybe I am worthy. And we get that feedback loop and that reinforcement of when I set a boundary, the world didn't fly off its axis. Nobody died. You know, my house isn't on fire. In fact, no one was harmed in the making of this boundary. Maybe my boss got a little irked, you know? Maybe that friend was a little bit judging me for setting a boundary with her, you know? But the unthinkable happened in that I'm still here. We're still okay. That bridge wasn't burned. Because we can so tell ourselves with these fears, fear of unworthiness, fear of separation, fear of unproductivity, that, you know, the boundary is going to absolutely create upheaval in our lives. So instead, we get this positive reinforcement, we rewire our brains, and we see not only is everything okay, but I must be worthy. I must belong to myself. And I must have more energy and more space for those that I love and for those that I value. Because the truth is, boundaries are necessary and we're casting them all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. So if you don't set a boundary with your phone, you are setting a boundary with your wellness. You know? Everything's a two-way street. Every coin has a flip side. And we're human. I think one of the reasons we refuse to set intentional conscious boundaries is because we want to believe that we're going to live forever and we're infinite. It's like, my time is infinite, my energy is infinite, my life is infinite, my, attention span is infinite, my ability to avoid sleeping and eating is infinite. And it's complete and utter insanity. That's not how humans work. And I'm pretty sure we're all human. Like, I'm pretty sure we're all gonna die. And so much of our suffering as humans is a refusal to accept this. You know? And I think that's part of what's at play with boundaries. We have these natural limits. And we have to respect them. We have needs, and we have to respect them. Your time, your energy, your space are all sacred. Because they are limited, you know? And it is up to you. It has always been up to you how you choose to spend them. So I want to move into specifically talking about phone boundaries because it's something I'm really passionate about. And I created a phone barrier worksheet a few weeks ago. And I'm going to share the link in the chat because I think, you know, this process is really helpful. It's been really helpful for me and for my clients. So I watched The Social Dilemma a few weeks ago. And if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's pretty heavy, but I do think it's necessary. I actually really do. And I don't watch heavy things in general unless they're necessary. And this is something I'm telling you, like, it really did transform my relationship to technology. But it was hard. It stuck with me. I could see clearly the connection between the burnout that so many of us are experiencing and this deepening political chasm that makes us all feel separate and bad othering of each other, and the comparison and feelings of unworthiness. Like young girls are getting plastic surgery at skyrocketing rates to look like the filters on Instagram. And like teen suicide is up like exponentially. Oh, thanks, Claire. I'll go turn that off. Thanks, Claire. My meter's really loud. I live in a space station. But yeah, so just sitting with that heaviness of what our phones and social media in particular are doing to us made me want to create boundaries. So with the phone specifically, what I did was I actually created a phone schedule. So my phone has a wake up time and a bedtime, and a few times throughout the day that I check it. That has been a game changer for me. Absolutely. And that might look different for you. Maybe you have to sleep with the phone in the bedroom because it's your only alarm clock and it really doesn't create these issues. But for me, I had to buy like an old-fashioned alarm clock. The heat finally shut off. It takes a while. Hopefully you could hear me. And take the phone out of the bedroom. Someone says in the film, he's like, do you check your phone in bed or do you check your phone when you go to the bathroom in the morning? Because those are the only two options. And I was like, that's like, number one, that's so gross. And number two, that's so true. And I know that's true. And people have been more open about it, like, ha ha, I sleep with my phone, ha ha. But it's like really, really true and sad, you know? And we haven't evolved to handle this level of intimacy with our technology. So we have to set the boundaries like we were our own parent. Yes. And there are so many wonderful ways to do this. Putting your phone on airplane mode, putting your phone on do not disturb, turning your phone off, putting your phone in a drawer, getting physical distance from your phone, getting an app like Moment on your phone to actually hide problematic apps or limit them and let you know, like, hey, you've had enough. You know, it's so good. I can't recommend it enough. So follow that link, break up with your tech. I really hope it helps. Cindy, how do you manage the temptation to check social media during the day on your computer? Oh, Cindy, what a great question. Yes, because a lot of people use their browser, their desktop, their laptop instead of their phone. so that they're not tempted to scroll endlessly and mindlessly. And it can be a great boundary, but when you're at work on your computer, it can be really challenging. So the number one thing that changed the game for me on this was downloading an extension to my Chrome browser called Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator. I cannot sell it enough. It's totally free. I will share a screenshot in the Facebook group later. It replaced my Facebook newsfeed with an inspirational quote, and it changes every time. Because sometimes I have to be on Facebook for my business, pretty much just for my business is why I use it nowadays. And after watching that film, I really wanted to get rid of it. But I do love it, and I find so much value in Facebook groups that I'm a part of, in doing my self-love sermons and connecting with people individually. But the newsfeed, which used to not be a thing, has become just like Instagram, that endless scroll. You drag it, it refreshes. It's totally hijacked our dopamine receptor. I was talking to my pharmacist friend about it this weekend, and he was like, I get really scared for people because their brains are just constantly getting another hit of that drug. So it is up to us. We have to be the grown-ups here, because the grown-ups certainly aren't the ones with our best interest in the boardrooms of these social media and smartphone companies. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Claire, my husband's phone is always between us in the bed. Sometimes I reach for him and get tangled in his headphone cord and stuff. Yes, my husband also listens. He has to have his headphones with white noise. Has to. I feel ya. It can be such a freaking drag. Absolutely. All right, so eradicate your Facebook newsfeed on your desktop. Create a phone schedule. Set those limits in the bedroom with your own, at least. You can't control your partner. But have that conversation maybe. And I do the same with email. I know email is a big, big one for so many people. I only check my email in my browser, and I only check it at the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, and the end of the day. Now, there are exceptions to that. If I'm supposed to meet with a client and they haven't shown, and I think maybe they emailed me, I'll have to go check it. Or, something very practical like that. But I used to use my email as my to-do list. And I had to really stop doing that. You guys can check back through previous self-love sermons. I've talked about setting limits with the news this year, which has been a game changer. About a year ago, I wrote a really vulnerable piece on setting limits with alcohol because I could feel myself meeting that boundary, and now I count every single drink, so that I'm not going over my limits, my daily limit or my weekly limit. And then with TV, that's been a really challenging one for me during the pandemic. And I was thinking about it last night. If I didn't shut off Netflix after my limit for the day, I would never read, because it just it's not fun to turn off the TV and do something that requires a little more effort. It's not fun. But with the limit in place, and not saying, maybe I'm gonna break and bend my limit today. When you take that off the table, it's so much easier. But it is a matter of repetition, of practice, and of accountability. Absolutely. Caitlin says, I have my phone automatically set to do not disturb, and it really helps me to not check my phone. Oh, that's so good, Caitlin. Last 3 years. My friends know if they're calling me after 8, they need to call twice. My phone is on do not disturb. A call only goes through after 2 calls within a minute. That's so good, Caitlin. Lacey, this isn't constructive, but I lose my phone often enough where it's not a huge problem for me. That's awesome. Oh my God, I was going to say that reminds me so much of Claire. Claire said, I have no idea where my phone is right now. I love you so much for that. That's awesome. That is so good. I get that way till I need it. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Oh, we need it so much less than Though we think we do, though, don't we? Yes, so creating a schedule and creating a little like docking station. Like it lives here, it sleeps here, and then it has its intentional use in my life in this way. You can set rules with all of these things, and that's what the homework was around today. So I hope that's helpful. I do want to move into now talking about energetic boundaries and boundaries with people specifically, because it is not easy to set boundaries with people. Again, we are pack animals. We are wired for connection and belonging, and actually we have it less than ever before. Even though technology gives us a sense of it, in reality, so many of us are so lonely and really feeling that age of loneliness, that isolation, that all of these, again, I really believe capitalism, patriarchy, colonialism, white supremacy have created in our culture and in our very bodies and relationships. And because tomorrow we're talking about softening and community building, boundaries is an essential part of that process. I hope that you can see that. Like, you're not going to get authentic community that's going to hold space for you and that you can hold space for others without boundaries. It's just not possible. You know? You've got to draw these lines in the sand. And, you know, I was thinking about Glennon Doyle, who said in Untamed, so she was married to a man previously and had children, and then she fell in love with a woman and ended up leaving her husband, who had like affairs, and anyway, you should read the book. This isn't a spoiler. This is like very well known. And she ended up getting with the woman. And so coming out to her like very Christian readership audience, and Untamed is so freaking good. But there's this particular point where she's talking about explaining it to her mom who wants to come visit, who wants to come see, you know, her kids and just be there. And Glennon could feel her mom's fear for the children around the divorce, around the coming out, around the new marriage, like all the fear. And she said to her mom, you can't come to our island with this fear that you have. Until you work that out, you can't come here. The drawbridge is up. And the way she explained that, it wasn't her mom that she needed the boundary with, because her mom is actually like her best friend and they have a really positive relationship. The boundary was with the fear. The boundary was with the emotionality that her mom was bringing onto this island of her kids, her wife, her new family, her home, her energetic space. And Glennon, was taking back the power to lift and lower that drawbridge as she saw fit for her family, for her island. Yes. And I love that, because, you know, it's not personal. And because we have these egos and we have these abilities to tell stories that are not always true, we get so identified, don't we? We get identified with other people's boundaries. We think that because of this unworthiness trance, we're always looking for evidence that it's true. We're always looking for the evidence that we're not worthy and we don't belong. So, when people set boundaries, it triggers that in us. All of us. All of us. Which in itself should remind us that we're not alone. But when you can set a boundary not with the person, but with the belief, with the fear, with the shame, specifically, or whatever it is that's triggering you, then you can communicate that boundary with love. with such love and compassion and presence, and from a place of empowerment, of knowing your worthiness. Because if you didn't have that drawbridge operating switch, you wouldn't be worthy, but you have it. Cindy, you can love someone dearly but also be unhelpful in the moment. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think that was the case in her story with her mom, you know? So who are the people in your life? Maybe you love them and they love you. And there's nothing but love, you know? There's so much goodness, and you don't want to burn a bridge. Different bridge metaphor now we're bringing in. But maybe you need to say to them, like, hey, your insert emotion here is not welcome in this container of my energy right now. And I think in 2020, what is and isn't welcome has probably changed a lot for many of us. You know? Especially like with politics and with so much conspiracy theories and fake news and all of these things. Like, these boundaries, they can't be personal. We're not cutting the cord with the people that we love. And I hope we can find a way to have meaningful conversations. Again, watch The Social Dilemma, because it'll blow your freaking mind about all of this. But we can absolutely say that topic is off limits, at least for right now. And I have people in my family that I have this with, where I'm like, we are not talking about this. And I have people in my family that push back and are like, yes, we are. And guess what? I can remove myself physically from that situation. And I didn't grow up with that power. We were actually raised to, when you are upset and you leave the room, you get followed, you get chased, and you get kind of pinned down emotionally until you either apologize and fake process it out on the spot, or, you know, obviously that doesn't always happen, so then things just intensify, because then it was a fake apology. It's so twisted. It actually wasn't until I met my husband that I realized that it was okay to walk away from an argument. It was okay to go to bed angry. It was okay to get space and boundaries during the heat of a disagreement. And actually, not only was it okay, but it was better. Because with space and with time, everything heals. Everything. With enough of it. And then you don't say even more things you regret. Jennifer, this year I normalized breaking up with friends. It was so tough, especially being isolated with the pandemic, but I feel so much better. Let's all clap for Jennifer. I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh. That is huge. And with the year you've had, that's amazing, Jennifer. That's amazing. What a gift you've given yourself. I know that wasn't easy. And it sounds like multiple friends. Oh man. And you feel so much better. You are the proof right here. Come to show us all that it is possible. So beautiful. So that's some stuff around energetic boundaries. I guess my if you were going to take anything away from this talk about energetic boundaries, or anything at all, from anything I say ever, it would be, know what you need and know how to ask for it. That's it. That's it. Like, so many of us don't know what we need. We're in denial of what we need, or that we even have needs, or that we're worthy of needs. And we don't know how the fuck to ask for it. We don't know how to say, like yesterday we talked about, we don't know how to say I'm lonely. We don't know how to say I need a friend. And we definitely don't know how to say I need space. And maybe part of it is because we don't want to smother someone else's vulnerability, you know? And we can hold that tenderness and the feeling of like really needing someone. And so we don't want to squash that. And that's why how to ask for it is key. When you have enough space in your body through self-care, through mindfulness, through presencing, and through boundaries, when you have enough space in your body, you can hold space exponentially for others, more than you could before. And when you cut toxic people out of your life, like trim the fat, you can hold more space for the people who matter, for the people who can hold the space for you, and making sure there's a reciprocity, you know? I used to hold on to people like freaking souvenirs. I used to think that if I let a friendship go, that I was a terrible person. And now, finally, I've realized not everyone was meant to be my friend forever, my BFF. And that's okay. They served a purpose, you know? Caitlin says, pull in for BYOS and being able to recognize what I need and being able to say it has changed my personal life and professional life. Really, it's the best lesson. Oh, plug in. Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Wow, what I need and being able to say it. Yes, I mean, that's really what it is. And that is setting boundary, by the way, every time you do it. Every time. So beautiful. Really normalize that, dear ones. Really normalize your needs. Normalize your limits. Celebrate them. Celebrate them and honor them and value them. Beautiful. So, dear ones, we're at the end of our time together. I can't let you go without mentioning Become Your Own Soulmate doors close on Sunday at midnight. So please book your exploratory call to chat with me about it beforehand. And if you're ready to save your spot now, you can do so. There are 9 spots left. You've got all the information in your emails. And it would be my honor and my pleasure to continue holding space for you one-on-one for a quarter of a year and to give you all the best stuff about setting boundaries, about loving yourself more, making that U-turn of presence and self-compassion, making that choice, seeing that you have a choice in all things. You have a choice what your thoughts look like, what your relationship to your body looks like, what your relationship to self and self-care looks like, your relationship to others, your relationship to work and your purpose and finding your mission, and all of these things. I would love to hold space for you. I really hope to see you inside Become Your Own Soulmate. It's going to be so much fun. And we start next week. So you would start immediately with me. And all the time slots are on Thursdays and Fridays. You can see what times are available. If there's a time there that doesn't work for you, but you really want to join, let me know. I would love to be flexible and find a time that works for us both. Okay, dear ones, let's round out the hour together. Another drop in. I want to thank you all for showing up live, showing up in community. Tomorrow, day 4, is soften, and the big resilient focus is on weaving authentic community and vulnerability, the vulnerability that is required for that. And in showing up live, in typing your comments, it might seem so simple, but I know that your time is sacred. I know that there's a million other things you could be doing right now. So the fact that you're doing this shows incredible courage on your part and dedication to yourself and this group. And when you show up in the morning for your challenges, for your self-care practice, that also shows great courage and vulnerability. And we honor that. We honor that decision and that boundary that you're choosing every time. Thank you so much. So let's drop back in. Let's make another regular visit to ourselves. Closing the eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. Let it again in through the nose and let it go. Greeting again this inner life. The sensations of the breath. Perhaps the belly rising and falling. Or the breath at the nostrils. The sensation of the feet from the inside out. The hands from the inside out. The density and heaviness of the legs, the hips, the arms and shoulders. Even the space in the head, relaxing, unwinding, releasing. Noticing any tingling, buzzing, or even numbness. Pain, pleasure, or even neutrality. The places where emotions are stored. Loneliness, fear, excitement, connection, love. Can you hold all of these in your awareness, whispering to them, this belongs. This belongs. Dropping all resistance and tension. This belongs. Breathing in. Letting go. This belongs. It feels okay wrapping your arms around yourself for a nice hug. And even just stroking your own cheek. A really tender moment with yourself. Noticing even if it's awkward or uncomfortable, that this belongs. Alrighty, precious ones. You can open your eyes. Thank you so much. May we go forth and set boundaries. Boundaries around our work, boundaries around our play, boundaries around our loved ones. And have a beautiful night. Take good care of yourself. And I'll see you tomorrow for day 4, where we will practice active softening and authentic community weaving. You are worthy. Bye. Good night. Bye. Thank you.